Hello there, Ebon Hawk crew. Today I am drinking from my Terrace Upper City mug. It's emblazoned with our ship logo, the Ebon Hawk, and it has mission reading bloodlines and Zalbar and Karth kind of chilling at the Upper City, and I like the orange accents it has. Are you with your Endar Spire mug at all?
Yeah, I am not with my Endar Spire mug right now, but I did enjoy a good cup of coffee out of it this morning. And yeah, the artwork on it looks fantastic and the ship looks great. And you should definitely check them out. So all of the kind of postcard artwork we've got on some mugs. So give them a look on our merchandise shop. So you can find that on the links in our Instagram bios, or you can go to ebonhawkpodcast.square.site and check those out because, yeah, I love the way that these turned out.
Yeah. And we're getting more and more options each day, thanks to Astronautica Art. And yeah, by the time this episode is released, maybe we'll have our complete Journey to the Starforge set released, but we're kind of featuring all the different worlds and characters from Knights of the Old Republic, so I have to drink as much water as I can. It's just been so hot recently.
That's right, yeah.
Is this Jakku or Geonosis? Because it's too hot,
It's too hot. Stay hydrated out there, for sure.
Yeah. So one question, we are going to examine, the character arcs in our proposed trilogy. But one question I had, there was a great question posed to me by the Gabe Young, and he said, what do you think KOTOR 1's theme/thesis is? What do you think the theme or thesis is, Brian?
Oh, okay. That is a good question, and it ties in very nicely with kind of my main sort of, character arc for the trio here. So I'll kind of answer that, and then we can talk a little bit more about it here. But I think kind of the main thesis of the first KOTOR is self-discovery and redemption. I think that, those two kind of ideals kind of coincide with each other. And I think that's what the ultimate sort of, the theme of the first Knights of the Old Republic is, for me at least. That's what I take out of it, self-discovery and redemption, learning who you are and being, forgiven and forgiving yourself for those mistakes. What about you, Cassio? What do you think that the, theme of KOTOR 1 is?
I would say it's never too late to make the right decision or to ask someone or to help someone make the right decision. So, yeah, it's about becoming better,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really good question, Gabe Young. You can check him out on Instagram.
Yeah, and when we get to the thesis of KOTOR 2, it's gonna be intense.
A whole, series of episodes, probably, so.
Yeah, I mean, the thesis may just be that in the Star Wars universe, you don't have free will and everything you do has consequences, but you have to make choices because apathy is death. But I'm trying to figure out, get more comfortable with KOTOR 2, but that's what we have to look forward to. So today we're going to look at the character arcs for Knights of the Old Republic, our trilogy, the trilogy of Knights of the Old Republic, the KOTOR trilogy, if you will. And we're going to start off with the trio. And we're starting with Revan. And for me, looking at the whole trilogy, it's he's kind of becoming he's an equation. He's going to become a synthesis. His old identity, there is good and bad, mostly bad, maybe, because he did turn to the dark side. And I know, KOTOR 2 kind of was he had to, make the sacrifice, but I'm he still turned to the dark side. And I think, in the Star Wars universe, if you do turn to the dark side, even if you do have good intentions, the dark side changes you,
Mm-hmm.
So, mostly bad. So old identity, good plus bad, mostly bad, plus reprogrammed identity equals new identity of his choosing. And I see him in the third one trying to save Bastila from his mistakes, kind of having to come to terms with what Malak became and saving the galaxy. He has a new life, and that was given to him in Act 1, and then the revelation happened in Act 2, and then Act 3 is what he does with it. And I think, like, what he does with it is he becomes the best version of all of his identities. He becomes the synthesis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely for Revan. Yeah, that sums it up really, really well. But like I'd mentioned, in kind of answer to that question, so it's, self-discovery and redemption. So you have Revan in the first film, he doesn't know who he is, and then at the end of the second film, it's revealed who he is. So we spend this last and final film is he's kind of exploring what that realization means, right? So he's learning about the things that he's done, what he was capable of, and you're kind of unsure, and he's kind of unsure which side of that equation he's going to fall on, right? Does he belong on the light side? Does he belong on the dark side? Do his previous actions, kind of dictate which side he needs to be on? But yeah, I think that's kind of the main story arc as far as Revan goes. I think it would be interesting to see him, kind of waver across that line, kind of back and forth, especially as we get into, the third act here, and we're on, Korriban, the home of the Sith, and Lihan, this place where he'd ultimately kind of unleashed this, big machine, the Starforge, against the whole galaxy, basically. So I think seeing him waver across that line's for me going to be super interesting. But yeah, it's just all about him. Like I said, it's he's forgotten who he is. He's been told who he is, and now he's remembering who he is in this last film.
Yeah, it's a fascinating character, and I think you can create a good character for him, even though it was based on an RPG and a lot of people have different opinions. I think if you just make it a good story, it's a good story. And I mean, one thing I would like to happen, probably wouldn't though, is if Revan's a guy in an adaptation, just maybe you could do a graphic novel where Revan is female, just to kind of balance things out, I think.
Sure.
Just so everyone's happy, and vice versa,
Yeah, it would be interesting. Because I think, I forget what the name of it is, but Marvel does that. They have the comic book line, and I think it's going to be a show here on Disney Plus, but it's basically the alternate universe kind of thing where anything could happen. But that would be fun if they could, figure out a way to do something like that for this story, to kind of pay homage to its RPG roots.
Yeah, and I think the show you're talking about is an animated one. It's going to be called What If?
Yes.
And I remember there was a Star Wars comic series called Star Wars Infinities, and for A New Hope it had what if the missiles or the torpedoes that Luke shot into the dark side, what if they malfunctioned? So he made the shot but it just didn't blow up, and it's everyone dies on Yavin 4. I think maybe the princess gets away, Princess Leia, but then Yoda senses it and he forces the Death Star into Coruscant, and I'm like, wow, he does it with the Force, and I'm like, wow, that is intense, and it's just kind of interesting to see what could happen. And I would love Star Wars to play more around with not just keeping up one timeline, and I think that's what Star Wars Visions is going to get us. But yeah, but kind of getting back to the Old Republic of it all, with Bastila, I think her kind of character arc is She's going to become a better person and walk away from her mistakes in Act 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think, like, Star Wars needs to stress that redemption doesn't need to equal death. There doesn't need to be necessarily, like, a tragedy. Like, this is a fairy tale. Like, let people become better without, like, killing them off, you know? So Bastila kind of begins the story, like, she kind of represents, like, a young adult. And, like, kind of told what to do, kind of just recites dogma that she's been told. She kind of has to hide the truth. And then, like, after the revelation, she kind of, like, goes through a phase, turns to the dark side. But then, like, she's able to turn away from the dark side and she becomes herself. Like, she's not, like, the young adult that would just do what she's told to do. She's not, like, the dark-sided person acting out. She's kind of just like an adult, you know, like the best version of herself. So that's what I see. What about you?
Yeah, so in Bastila, as you go through kind of the story, she goes from being like the good student to the wavering student to kind of the fallen student, the bad student. I don't know how to say that, but you know what I mean, right? So she's a very good Jedi, and then that starts to waver, and then she, kind of, changes allegiances, turns her back on the Jedi teachings, and ultimately it takes, the other half of herself, Revan, this, the original dyad, to kind of bring her back. So I think for her character arc here in the third film, we see her obviously as dark side Bastila, but I think she has like a newfound confidence in this role. Now, Bastila has always been confident, but she's been confident just kind of being like a mouthpiece for, Jedi dogma. Like, it wasn't really her own confidence. She was just, very confident in, what the Jedi told her that she should believe in. But now that confidence is more of like a self-confidence, and we get to see that, kind of play out through this film. The couple of times we see her, and then as she's redeemed back, and, kind of her interactions with Revan and how the film ends. And I think that's kind of what's interesting about Bastila, is as she's redeemed by Revan, and you have like this very nice kind of circular storytelling where, she redeems Revan and Revan redeems her, and it just kind of goes around in this circle. One of the interesting things is now that she's been redeemed, she's able to look at the Jedi Council, the Jedi Order, and kind of the actions of the Jedi through this lens now, where she's been on the other side and can see the flaws in their teachings and their approach to the world. Yeah.
I don't know if this is a word, like she's individuating, like she's becoming an individual. I'm pretty sure that's a word. If it's not, like, it should be. It makes sense. But it's like she's kind of like able to be an adult and just kind of like be like, oh, maybe like the mentors think this, but I think this, and I'm a good thinker. Like, I'll do it my way, It's kind of like it's a story, like, it's kind of like young adult to becoming yourself, like becoming an adult. So, yeah. And then with Karth, I see it as like he's learning to forgive, heal, and move on. Mm-hmm. When he comes face to face with Dustil, it helps him realize, like, maybe Revan did these things, but Revan is a good person now. And I think the same with Bastila. So his overall arc is, like, learning to believe and trust again. And I think, like, he's in one place in Act 1, and then I think he reaches his low point in Act 2 when, like, it's revealed Revan is Revan. And then I think in 3, he learns to heal and move on from that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And in kind of keeping with this theme I have going here for, like, self-discovery and redemption, Karth, starts out our trilogy as, a good soldier, following orders. He's there to protect and serve Bastila. And then as we go through the films into the second film, he learns more about what's been going on, right? The lies. He learns possibly that Dustil's still alive. He's put in positions that are kind of contrary to how he thinks things should be going. And then ultimately here in the last act, he is reunited with his son. So he's able to save him. He has the opportunity to save kind of his new family here with, Bastila and Revan and Canderous. So it kind of, makes this good path for him to sort of, kind of suffer this, kind of loss and, like you said, mistrusting in everyone, and is able to kind of find that and find his, footing back with everyone, and is able to trust, and what they, are trying to accomplish. I think possibly kind of after the story or at the tail end, I don't know if Karth necessarily retires, but I think, he's going to take some time off and go try to build his relationship up with his son. And then, he'll be back to work, but he'll have a better understanding of, what it means to, put your trust in someone and believe in someone, kind of beyond what your mission briefing says.
Yeah. Karth, I think, deserves a vacation after the KOTOR trilogy,
Yeah.
He can take a sabbatical.
Yeah, he'll want to talk about it now.
That would actually be a hilarious, maybe a little meta, with, like, Dustil and Karth, and, like, maybe Dustil asks him something, and, like, Karth is like, let me talk to you about that, or something, and, like, it would just, it would make me happy and bring me joy.
Yeah.
The fourth character I have on here is Jolie.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be, like, maybe the protagonist of his own story, like, he was the hero, but he had to step back into the swing of things to save the galaxy. He had to be the mentor. And I think, like, in this one, he gets to see his faith rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to see that sometimes it does work out, because I think, like, it didn't work out with him and his wife, but I think, like, maybe when he's able to kind of see things work out with Revan and Bastila, like, he knows, like, it can work out sometimes, and I think it would be kind of bittersweet for him.
Yeah, for sure. So we meet Jolie, and he's in kind of the self-imposed isolation when he joins the party, but he's kind of there more or less as to just provide kind of like an example for Revan and Bastila and Karth to learn from. And then that's ultimately, for me in my head and my, kind of story I'm envisioning is he actually gets the opportunity to have some closure and, teaching and being like an actual mentor with Juhani and kind of, righting the wrongs that he'd had, and not wanting to teach his wife necessarily, but, that went very wrong. So he's getting kind of another crack at it. So I think that that's going to give him some closure in kind of the journey he's been going on, a journey that started well before, our story picks up. Now, kind of after this, I was thinking about it, and I was wondering if you think Jolie would go back to the Jedi Order or not, or if he would stay outside. But then I was thinking, what if he, kind of went back to the Jedi Order and, they kind of made amends, but maybe Jolie was the first kind of way seeker that we see, and they talk a lot about kind of that role in the High Republic stuff that's out right now. So what do you think? Do you think Jolie could have been like the OG way seeker?
Perhaps, but I kind of see him like kind of being like Ahsoka and like kind of being outside of the Jedi Order, and and yet he's kind of like the best of the Jedi. I kind of think the Jedi, I mean, we're going to get to this point later, but I think like the Jedi Council, those who survive are going to be, they're going to know that they kind of screwed up with Revan and Bastila.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why they're just not going to even like be like, well, actually, this is sort of an attachment. And like, even though you save the galaxy, like, you just kind of need to like not be together. Like, they know they have no place to like kind of give any feedback. Mm-hmm. So, like, maybe it would be kind of nice to, like, for them to be humbled and learn from Jolie. But
Right.
I kind of just wonder if they're capable of that. Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah. So I think, like, maybe Jolie, I don't think he'd go back to Kashyyyk, but maybe he could just kind of, like, have earned a quiet life, or at least a quiet moment. And maybe he could be kind of like someone who overlooks, like, Zalbar's village, and Mission is kind of there, like, as a friend too, like, you know. So that's what I could see.
Oh, there you go.
And then with Juhani, she's someone who helps the quest succeed. She's kind of like she's like a Jedi who's not like the mentor, but like not like the main character, but she kind of just helps things along. And I think like her and Balea would be like the B couple, you know, maybe throughout the trilogy. And as I was kind of just writing down the treatments for Act 2 and 3, maybe I need to like re-listen to the files, but I'm like, oh, the characters are telling me like her and Canderous become BFFs. So like in my treatment that happens.
Okay.
I don't know if that happens in the game. Maybe they're mad at each other, but I'm like, I think we're missing an opportunity where they become BFFs.
Yeah, I could see them being BFFs for sure, right? Because they're both kind of, lost from their original tribes at this moment, right? So we pick up kind of Juhani's story. She's, very tempted, very lured on her way to the dark side, and we're kind of able to keep her from going down that path. And then ultimately she ends up kind of joining in with the party and plays a big role as far as helping to protect Revan and to teach and to learn a lot. Now I've always kind of pictured, and I've mentioned it a bunch of times now, but her and Jolie having kind of this mentor and friendship there. Now after kind of our story, I'd wonder if she would remain with the Jedi Order, but I think it would be interesting if, maybe she wants to leave and Jolie kind of convinces her to stay, and that, something along the lines that the Force is better served with, her voice in the Jedi Order, to kind of encourage her to stick with it and to, be a different, voice in the room from the rest of the Jedi Masters who are clearly not capable of doing a good job. So, I think Juhani's storyline is super interesting and definitely in that, kind of redemption sort of arc for me anyways.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I was kind of thinking of is like, oh, maybe like, I guess like technically the Mandos did kind of genocide her people, but Callus, in Rebels was able to become BFFs with Zeb, and they overcame that and like became close. So I'm like, maybe the same thing could happen with Juhani and Canderous, and I don't know. I kind of see it as like Bastila and Karth are probably friends, and then like Juhani and Canderous become friends, and just everyone is friends,
Especially because I would think that her and Canderous probably, I mean, even though, she is a Jedi, they both probably still feel a little bit like outsiders to the rest of the group, maybe. Maybe there's a little bit of that going on, so they could find some camaraderie there, maybe.
Yeah. It should happen, people. Like, they become BFFs, so...
Yeah.
Mission and Big Z. I feel like I don't need them to come back in Act 2 at the end. Like, I'm not married to that idea. But I do see Mission and Big Z, like, coming back, at least in the third film, like, for the final battle. Like, I think, like, Revan just would not want them there. But they're like, we're here anyways, like it's kind of like they're young adults, right. And this is kind of like an internship for them while they're doing university. They became adults, and Revan definitely doesn't want them there, but he trusted them when they showed up, and yeah, I think it would just be kind of like a nice moment for them to show up.
Yeah, I think like you, I think it's probably in the best interest of the story to kind of leave them behind, at least for as far as the second act goes. But when we get to the third act, I think that they could have kind of an important part to play. I could see them being involved kind of heavily on the Korriban section, and helping Karth kind of infiltrate into the Sith Academy and get his son, or figure out where Dustil is, and that kind of thing. So I think they're playing a big part there. And then once we get to the Starforge too, I think we kind of want to see the whole team there in action in some capacity. And Mission and Big Z have shown throughout the entirety of this trilogy that they're dependable, and if any of their friends here on board the Ebon Hawk need their help, they're going to show up, whether it's in their best interest too or not. So
yeah, I mean, like, Revan wouldn't be able to tell them no, like, they're there,
Yep. Yeah, and that's from the very first encounter with, right? She offers to help, and he tells her no, or Karth tells her no, and she shows up and helps anyways. So
yeah. Then with HK47, I was like, I'm not able to come up with an arc. Like, am I just not like an HK47 like mega fan?
Could be.
Maybe there could be an OG meatbag showdown, but I think it would be kind of funny, like, just to see, like, HK47 just take down a lot of troopers, and, like, maybe just Malak has to hear about it, and he's just so angry. And, I mean, you don't want to make it too comical, but just, like, for that to be, like, in the background would be funny.
Yeah. So HK47 for me. So in our kind of Act 3 recap show, you'd mentioned that you didn't want to necessarily see Revan have a big hallway scene on the Starforge. Who I do want to see have a big hallway scene on the Starforge is HK47. We need to see this guy in super action, because we saw him having some action on the Leviathan. Him and T3, they were going around, trying to, get the team broken out of their jail cells and, try to get out of there. But that was kind of a little bit of a stealthier action, and HK needs some action. So I say, yeah, just let him go to town on all these things. It's going to be just like when we saw, IG-11 in The Mandalorian, right? It's going to be just his time to shine as the premier assassin droid in the galaxy. And I think that would be really funny if he's going through just mowing all these guys down, and T3 is just kind of, rolling along behind him, just, going about his business, opening doors and, not paying much attention.
Yeah.
HK is just kind of escorting him.
T3 is not
this place.
Yeah, T3 is not a murder bot.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, for T3 M4, I'm like, I couldn't really come up with an arc. He doesn't really have an arc in KOTOR. He definitely has one in KOTOR 2. So I wrote down, no arc, but looks cute.
Yeah, still cute. So we'll get another Funko for T3. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't have much to do. We'd kind of brought up the idea that he's basically like the GPS for the Ebon Hawk. But yeah, he doesn't, especially like on Korriban and on Lehan, he's not going to have a lot to do, otherwise. But I think it would be fun to kind of see him, rolling around doing stuff on the Starforge. Like I said, give HK and T3 another, opportunity to shine as the droids of the party here. And I know people will be definitely interested in seeing HK because he's a fan favorite. So
yeah, he definitely is. What do you think about Darth Malak's arc?
So Darth Malak's arc, I mean, as far as the film goes, right, it's pretty one note, right? His arc's already kind of happened off screen, right? Way back when he was Jedi Alec and then, became Malak. But as far as like the story arc here for him, I think really through all three of the films, it's kind of this cat and mouse game. Malak knows where all of these star maps are, and he knows that's where, Revan is going to find these things to figure out how to catch up with them. So by the time everyone actually does, I think that Malak's going to be, super overconfident. He's going to, think that he's pretty much already won. He's dropped the bombshell that Revan is Revan. He's turn Bastila to the dark side. Something I do hope that we would get to see for Malak is that I would like to see some interactions with him and Bastila on board, just so we're able to kind of, get a little bit more character growth and just time with Malak, other than, we'll just, flash up to the ship. Yep, there he is, looking evil. Okay, back to the action, right? So we get some actual like dialogue and some info on what his mindset is. What about you? What do you think? What do you think Malak's getting up to over the trilogy and here in this last installment?
I do agree with what you say about like giving him more of a character. I think like Darth Malak realizes like over the course of the trilogy, like especially like in his final moments, like that he was always in Revan's shadow. He wanted to be Revan, subvert Revan, and take him off the map. But the irony is that he defined himself by Revan, and he dies with that realization, and I think he dies with some dignity, but it's not like he's redeemed. He's still like on the dark side, which I think will just be different. It's like he doesn't have to die like Palpatine, like kind of cackling and doing Force lightning. Maybe he's a bit like Count Dooku at the end. I don't know. Just kind of like he dies with the realization he could have been a better person, but he's not a better person.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot like Count Dooku, right? Kind of that realization at the end. The difference, I guess, is that Count Dooku kind of realized that he was played for a fool in the end, and Malak would be just more of a realization that he went down the wrong path. But I do think it's more interesting to have him be offered redemption and to just turn away from it, right? To just kind of make that decision on his own. He's going to sort of die on this hill that he started up.
Yeah. And then the last person I put on the list, any guesses?
Well, it's probably kind of the ones that are pulling the strings for all of these actions in this whole story, but probably the Jedi Council.
Yeah. So what I wrote down is that they realize, like those who survived, the survivors, they messed up. And they're like, we're just going to let Revan and Bastila, like, do their thing. Like, we have no room to tell them what to do. And I think we can see that we screwed up, What about you?
Yeah, very much. I think that they are going to realize that they screwed up. Kind of try to sweep it under the rug and just let things kind of go. I think we kind of hear from them periodically throughout the story here. I think it would be interesting if Revan doesn't tell them that Bastila has turned, right? I think that would be interesting if he keeps that from them. Now, whether that's something that they would just be able to sense through the Force or not, I don't know. But I think it would be interesting for him to keep that to himself, or to tell them not the entire truth about what's going on there in that aspect. I do think that they show up kind of at the Starforge, or they at least send some Jedi to help on kind of these Republic command ships, kind of a thing. And then, at the end of the film, I think maybe they make a plea for Bastila and Revan to come back to Dantooine, but Bastila and Revan are like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to, go off to Coruscant and have some time together, or go to Leon and sit and look out at the ocean, or do something that's not go back to Dantooine and deal with you people right now. We need some time.
Yeah. The only cool person on Dantooine is Vandar. End of list. So
That's it.
The one linking character between like the KOTOR trilogy and KOTOR 2 in my book would be Atris. Like, I think she's down to commit war crimes and morally questionable decisions. I mean, like, she was on the Coruscant Council, but I'm like, maybe she could be like the representative of Dantooine on the Coruscant Council, and then that's way we get Atris in the first one, and kind of build up that character more. So, but only Vandar's cool, and maybe some of them could be like I think what we need to do is apologize, and we'll explain everything on Dantooine. It's like you've explained enough, like they're on the light side, but they don't need to listen to the Dantooine Council.
Right.
Revan and Bastila set up some boundaries, and it's like if we're gonna be Jedi, we're gonna be Jedi on Coruscant or something. So
yes, somewhere where they can, at least have a little bit of breathing room from what the Jedi Council has going on, at least for the time being. So
definitely. So, are there any characters you feel like I missed, or anything like we should kind of talk about?
No, I think that pretty much wraps up kind of, all the characters here for, the Ebon Hawk and, Malak and the Jedi Council. And I think it's just, like I said, I think that it's a story of kind of self-discovery and redemption. I kind of tried to hit on that a little bit as we, talked about each of these characters. But yeah, really, really good story arcs. And I think that it makes for, a very compelling story to be told over a film or anything else. What about you? Did you have anything else to add in terms of the characters here from our trilogy?
I think we talked about the major players. I mean, like, I think the trio and Malak are kind of like the ones you kind of have to get right, and then like the other characters, they do have their time to shine, and I think like we're kind of able to see like exactly what would happen, like beginning, middle, and end. Like we have a beginning, a middle, and end in mind, and it's KOTOR has a great story and great characters, and like just kind of being able to see the whole picture. If there were to be something made, we could definitely get a good story out of it.
Yeah, absolutely, because that was the trickiest part of this whole thing, and I would like to give you a compliment and give myself a partial compliment, but I thought that we did a really good job of kind of keeping the characters' storylines intact without, making it feel, cluttered or trying to force characters into the story when they weren't needed to be. I mean, that's why in the game you only get to take, 2 companions with you, right? Because you can't have all of these characters on screen all the time. But I think that I feel at least that we did, a good job of, telling everyone's story and being, cognizant of the way that would actually play out in an actual film. So I think that that's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you. Like, I think we're kind of able to see the full picture, and we know how to tell a story, and it's not just like about like being like, this is canon or this isn't canon, or like we need to have an epic hallway scene, or like what matters is like this character goes to the dark side and we see them kill everyone, like we're kind of able to think about characters and story structure and what makes an overall good story, and
yeah.
In my humble opinion, we did a great job. We knocked it out of the park. And maybe one day we'll make it a radio drama or something. And
there you go.
Can have fun with that. But yeah, KOTOR forever, and it's not like we're done. Like this isn't the final curtain call for our proposed adaptation of KOTOR. Like we have some excellent guests in mind for talking about Korriban, talking about Lihan, talking about the Starforge, and then we'll have a epic KOTOR trilogy celebration, and then we'll have a little bit of a break, and then we'll dive into KOTOR 2, and like that's gonna be interesting, So it's totally a different type of story, different kind of tone, different protagonists, but it'll be like a literature course, so it'll be fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun to dive into and dissect. And I mean, even though we're kind of, wrapping up how we would see a trilogy of films here for, Revan and Bastila and crew from the first Knights of the Old Republic. There's still a lot more stories that could be told for these characters. There's going to be, things that we'll probably want to revisit, or things we'll be enlightened to, or guests that will have, some different opinions that we're interested in, kind of exploring. But so it's just going to be a lot of fun. There's always room for more KOTOR goodness. And Cassia, I have a question for you in terms of KOTOR goodness. So we just ran through all of the characters in our proposed trilogy here, and kind of talked about what their kind of story arcs and things were here for this. Where do these characters go from here? What happens after we have our wrap party? This this trilogy goes out to the world and makes massive amounts of money. Is there any kind of projects for this cast of characters that you would like to see, or anything really interesting that you would like to explore in terms of KOTOR 1 as far as storytelling goes, or storylines to continue? Or
I think that you definitely could have like maybe some comics or a story talking about like Mission in Big Z. It could be a fun like kind of YA novel or comic book. And I think Jolie, like, I don't know if it would happen, but you could definitely kind of see like what he was doing after KOTOR, and maybe HK-47 and T3 could be the team of droids that we didn't know we needed, and they could have like a cute little animated cartoon. Actually, no, HK-47 can't do cute.
No, it cannot.
But like maybe they could team up and like it's like Tom and Jerry. Like one is like more like violence prone, and then one is like, no, let's be cute. I don't know.
Right? Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think after this or before this, leading up to it, I'd like to see some new novels or comics. Kind of exploring the characters, kind of before the story takes place and after. Kind of these events. And I think that it would be nice to have some sort of maybe like a short like series maybe that kind of bridges the gap to set up KOTOR 2, because there's a lot going on in that world, and it would be nice to kind of maybe establish some of that before we would get into whatever we would want to get into there. But I think, a nice kind of 4 or 6 episode little thing just to kind of lay out the state of the galaxy before, whatever KOTOR 2's got up its sleeve, I think would be really cool. And then I have a really good idea. Tell me if you are on board with this. So this is going to be a Disney Plus show, and I'm calling it the Darth Revan Super Hallway Show. And it's just Revan just going through hallways, mowing down guys, like 60 minutes, like 10 episodes of that, something like that. Do you think that's good?
Yeah, and it can star Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure.
It could be like biomes instead of like peaceful, like like planets and like nice aesthetics. It's like just hallway scenes and
just him going down a super long hallway scene. It'd be like that old screensaver where it's just going through the maze like all day long. It could just be that.
Yeah.
But that's joking. I think everyone kind of knows that we're not really that on board with hallway scenes, at least not gratuitous ones. But what I could be on board with is a good storyline, maybe something animated. I think that this would be really cool animated, but it would follow kind of the storyline of Revan and Malak, like right after they turned and they got the assignment from the Sith Emperor to go find, the star maps so they could get the Star Forge turned on. So like an animated kind of thing that goes through their storyline, like leading up to, the beginning of the first KOTOR.
So I'm not in love with like the Sith Emperor turning Revan and Malak to the dark side. I really would have rather it just been the war itself. Mm-hmm. I'm not really in love with the links that exist between SWTOR and Knights of the Old Republic. And if some things need to be retconned from the Revan novel, I'm a little too happy to do that, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working on my SWTOR love. I have to have an open mind, but I think I've kind of like said, like, in my mind, like the Old Republic expanded universe that exists in my head is a trilogy of Knights of the Old Republic, and then KOTOR 2, I'm not quite sure on, like, whether it'd be a Disney Plus series or a couple movies or a trilogy. It's a hard thing to adapt. I honestly think, like, it should be just a book. But if you're going to make an expanded universe and we need the story of the exile, the heroine's journey, it's going to be a hard thing to get right, you know? And so KOTOR trilogy, something with KOTOR 2 that we will determine at some later point in time. And then there can be spin-offs or whatever for, like, what there should be, you know, from KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, I think. And then in my mind, there would be a KOTOR 3, like, let the exile and Revan, like, have a good end, you know, not just be killed off randomly. Like, let it end in the timeline that they're from. And that doesn't mean SWTOR can't happen, but, like, I just kind of like it to be, like, they're kind of two distinct stories, and they can have connections, but, like, I think it would just be stronger if Revan and Exile are given endings in their timeline. But I actually would like an animated series, kind of like Clone Wars, that's like the Mandalorian Wars. I think people could have a lot of fun with, like, animated Mandos, and, like, the Mandalorians could be maybe more like, I think the author is Karen Travis's interpretations of, like, Mando culture, you know? Like, it's a different timeline. They're not quite like they were in Clone Wars, you know? Like, let them be epic kind of warlords, you know? And kind of like, you kind of see Revan and Malak kind of turn to the dark side, and then they're fighting the Mandalorian Wars, and then they turn on the Republic, and then Bastila comes into the fray, and in my mind, how, like, this animated series that doesn't exist, you know, like, ends. Revan and Malak are like, how come the Republic is winning, you know, like, all of a sudden, and it's like, oh, there's a Jedi Padawan named Bastila, and she's kind of changing the tide of everything. And, like, in my mind, like, it's kind of like Anakin and Grievous, like, they never meet over the course of the Clone Wars, you know? Like, in my mind, like, Revan and Bastila don't meet until they meet on Revan's flagship and Malak betrays them. But, like, maybe you kind of get the feel of, like, things are, like, leading to that conflict, and then it's kind of like that's how that animated prequel to the Mandalorian Wars would end. And yeah, that's what I kind of see, like, the Old Republic being at that point, you know. And that doesn't mean, like, maybe there's stories that haven't been created yet or people haven't thought of yet that could come about organically, but it's a rich timeline, and I think it deserves to be explored.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm on board for all of that stuff. I think seeing the Mandalorian Wars, you know, kind of in any form would be really great, just because we've never seen, you know, Mandalorians in, like, positions of power and, you know, having strongholds all over the universe. So that would be really cool. And yeah, I think, you know, just a lot of good projects could be on the horizon. So, you know, hopefully everyone enjoyed going through our proposed KOTOR trilogy, and, you know, let us know who your favorite character arc is and all that good stuff. And, you know, like we'd said, you know, we're going to be here to talk about KOTOR 2 and all sorts of Old Republic good stuff. So,
yeah. If you're able to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that helps more people find our show, and it helps us get higher ranked. And I don't really understand what happens, but 5-star reviews and just a review, it really does magical things, and where people are able to listen to the podcast. So if you're able to do that, we appreciate it, and we will read your reviews on the air. So thank you very much, and may the Force be with you.